Okay, lesson 9a.6. In this lesson, we're going to talk about slope formula. So yesterday we actually found the slope of a line given a 2 points. No, not given 2 points, but given the line. Okay, you picked 2 points, rise over run, vertical change over horizontal change, right? So we're going to continue with that idea. Okay, so we have our slope formulas here. We talked about the one on the left there, rise over run, where we use the letter M to represent slope. Okay, so another way of thinking about it, okay, M is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, if you remember, we talked about vertical change over horizontal change. When you think about it, y-axis is vertical, where the x-axis is horizontal. This is an equation that you will need to memorize. Okay, so y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and I'll explain what those represent here in a second. So it says calculate the slope of the line between the two given points. So what we're going to do first off is we're just going to write that equation, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now we have 2 points. We got x, y, x, y. Now from here you just need to pick a point as point 1 or point 2. It does not matter which one you do, okay? But if you decide this one to be your x1, y1, that's going to be the values that go there. If you pick this as your second point, then that will go there. Okay, so if I was to go that route, okay, you notice that how I highlighted y2, x2, okay, negative 10, oh, sorry, my y value there is 5, okay, and the x value is negative 10. So stack that point on your equation. Those ones always go first, okay, and then in the equation it's always minus, okay, and we said the y's go on top, 4, and then negative 8. So then just simplifying from there, okay, 5 minus 4, we get 1. And then we got negative 10 minus negative 8, which I can write as negative 10 plus 8, which will give us 1 over negative 2. So we have a slope of negative 1/2. Okay, so just continuing on with that, getting some more practice. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so another way to think about this, just pick a point. Okay, I'm going to start with that 3, 7. Okay, so on top again, we're looking at our y coordinates. Okay, so if I want to start with the 3, 7 point, we take that y coordinate 7 and minus it from the other y coordinate. So 7 minus negative 2. Now, since I started with this 7, I need to start with that 3 for the x. So 3 minus 3. Now when we simplify that, 7 plus 2, 3 minus 3 is 0. We get 9 over 0. Now, the problem with that, we cannot divide things into 0 parts. Okay, so whenever you get a 0 in the denominator or in that horizontal change or your run, okay, this is where we have an undefined slope. So just like we talked about yesterday, that is when we have that vertical line. Okay, so we got 0, 5 and 4, 3. Okay, I'm not going to rewrite it this time, but again, just pick one of the y values. Now, I like this one just because it's bigger than the 5. So we start with the 13. 13 minus 5. Okay, so since, again, if I started with that 13, I have to start with that 4. 4 minus 0. 13 minus 5, that's going to give me 8 over 4. And we always simplify our fractions. That'll get us a slope of 2. Okay. Let's go here. Slope. Y minus y. 6 minus 6 over x minus x. Now again, well, really this one doesn't matter because the y coordinates are the same. But let's say I started with that 6. That one's there. That means I have to start with the 4. 4 minus negative 1. 6 minus 6 is 0. Rewriting that 4 minus negative 1 is 4 plus 1. We'll get 0 over 5. 0 over any number is just 0. Okay, so that is a slope of 0. And if you remember, those are the cases where we get a horizontal line. Alright, so that is how we find slope given 2 points. And we'll kind of keep going with that now. Okay, or that idea, because again, for slope we have vertical change over horizontal change. We have rise over run, or we have y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. All different ways of thinking of this, but are all actually the same thing. Okay, so here it says the table of values has been completed for each equation. Calculate the slope of the line from the table of values using ratios. Okay, so, and then actually building off that, vertical change, that's change in y over the change in x. So, if we're given a table of values, and we got that table of values from that equation, okay, picking your x values, plug it in, get the y back, we can figure out the change in y's, okay, which if I go from negative 6 to negative 5, I am adding 1, and if you notice, that pattern goes all the way through. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing with our x's. Okay, I went down, 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 same thing with the x's, negative 2 to negative 1, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1. Now, these are all lines. That's what we're doing this unit. Okay, if you have a hard time seeing from negative 2 to negative 1, go to an easier value. From 1 to 2, you can easily see that you're adding 1. Okay, so now again, we said that with the table of values, I'm going to think change in y over change in x. My change in y, we said was plus 1. My change in x, we said was plus 1. 1 over 1, we have a slope of 1. Okay, so that's the idea we're using with these ones. Now, when I go to this one, change in y, and really you only need to do this with one set. Okay, so like I can easily see from 8 to 5, you're subtracting 3. Okay, now if I went with these 2 points here, I got to go with the change in x on that too. Negative 2 to negative 1, we are adding 1. And again, we said change in y over change in x. So my slope is going to be that negative 3 over positive 1, which I can write as negative 3. So we have a slope of negative 3. Now, looking forward to tomorrow, what I want you guys to notice here, okay, we had a slope of 1. Okay, the coefficient in front of x is 1. Because again, when we don't have a number in front of x, we have an implied coefficient of 1. Okay, same thing here. We had a slope of negative 3. Your coefficient is negative 3. We're going to talk about something called slope-intercept form, where that coefficient with x is the slope of your line. Again, we'll talk about that tomorrow. Okay, so same thing here now. Change in y, negative 4 to negative 2, you're adding 2. To get from negative 6 to negative 3, you are adding 3. Change in y over change in x, so my slope is 2/3. And again, if you notice, the coefficient with x is the same as your slope. Alright. Okay, now, last two here, couple special cases. Okay, change in y, it's not changing at all. Okay, so I could say plus 0. Okay, and I go here, change an x, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1. The idea is not changing. We have, okay, our change in y, which we said was 0, change in x, which we said was 1. 0 over 1, that's 0. Again, just like up here, oh, where was it? Okay, whenever we have, oh, that was not a 0 slope, this one was. Whenever we have a 0 slope, that is that horizontal line. Okay, for that next one, we're actually going to get an undefined slope because we're going to divide by 0. That's where we have the vertical lines. Kind of looking forward to that one. So again, get a slope of 0. That's a case where we have those horizontal lines. Because that horizontal line and that vertical line is kind of our special cases when it comes to graphing and writing equations of lines. So when I go here, 5 to 6, we're adding 1, plus 1. That pattern follows all the way through the table that we have here. Okay, and the pattern that we have for our x's, it's not changing, so plus 0, plus 0, plus 0, plus 0, change in y, over, change in x. And again, we cannot divide by 0, so this is a case where we have an undefined slope. Okay, and again, one last time, undefined slope is when we have our vertical lines. All right, so that was 9a6 slope formulas. Your homework, 9a6 worksheet that is in your green packet. If you have any questions, I will actually not be there again tomorrow for Friday. We will be watching the 9a7 video. When we come back next week, Monday, we'll do 9a8. Definitely make sure if you have any questions, bring those to class that day. We will take care of those that day. And then next week, we will be taking our quiz on Tuesday, re-quiz Wednesday, Thursday reviewing, and then we will be testing on Unit 9 on Friday. Okay, so if you're falling behind, make sure you're getting caught up, and then use your time wisely for class, the rest of class today. All right, have a good day. Have a good day, guys.